"What about you, Carrie?" said Mr. Pendergast. "That's enough about me. What can you share with our young writer friend?" "It's not really necessary," said Tom. "Please don't feel compelled just because—" "Tut, tut, tut," said Mr. Pendergast. "Let's hear what she has to say. Carrie?" "Oh, I don't know," said Mrs. Pendergast, blushing furiously, stirring her coffee with a spoon. "Always the reluctant one," said Mr. Pendergast, laughing. "I had to force her to go along to Disney World when the children were young." "Really, there's no need," said Tom. "Oh, I know, dear, that's very sweet of you," said Mrs. Pendergast. "It's just that Arthur has put me on the spot with that little indiscretion of his. Rather difficult to follow." Mr. Pendergast beamed and relit his pipe. "Swing away, old girl, swing away," he said. "Well, this might be something," said his wife, taking the spoon out of her cup. "A good many years ago, not long after we were married, Arthur, and before the children were even born, I really don't know why, but I started keeping a little money out from the payments and savings." "Carrie keeps the books in this accountant's family," Mr. Pendergast said proudly. Mrs. Pendergast smiled. "After a while, I opened an account for myself in a different bank, and over the years I've added to it, invested it, and of course the interest has accumulated until it's grown into quite a respectable sum. I call it my mad money." She giggled girlishly behind her hand. "A hush fund! Good for you, Carrie! How much would you say it comes to?" Mr. Pendergast said, puffing on his pipe, eyes twinkling. "You've got me curious." "I'd have to look to be sure of the exact amount, but I think it's between $74,000 and $75,000. Mr. Pendergast whistled, stamped his foot, slapped his knee, and shook his head. "Carrie, Carrie," he said, "that's marvelous. You never cease to amaze me." She giggled again, blushing. "It does add up," she said. "I wonder if the IRS knows about this," her husband said, rolling his eyes in mock alarm. "Well, I know it isn't much for shock value," said Mrs. Pendergast, "but it's all I can think of right now." No, that's very good, Carrie. It's stunning. Just the thing. Wife with a secret slush fund. Conjures up all sorts of possibilities, doesn't it, Tom?" "All sorts," said Tom. "I wonder what the children might add," said Mr. Pendergast, and he looked at his guest seated on the couch. "Who knows what the younger generation is up to, eh? Call the kids down, will you, Carrie?" "Oh, don't bother, please," said Rita. "It's getting so late." "Nonsense!" Mr. Pendergast waved her off as his wife went to the stairs and called the children. "It's nothing. It's the least we can do. Take advantage of this opportunity. Carpe diem, eh, Tom?" "And the night as well," said Tom, as Mr. Pendergast laughed and nodded his head. The children came down. The son, Gary, shook hands with Tom, whom he addressed as Mr. Decker, and the girl, Cindy, smiled politely when she was introduced. Gary was a sophomore in high school and Cindy was a senior, the proud father said. Gary was already a second-string halfback on the varsity football team, and Cindy was a straight-A student, as well as one of the leads in a school production of Jesus Christ Superstar. "Gary," Mr. Pendergast said, "Mr. Decker is a writer, and he's looking for interesting things about people, stuff that might be a little below the surface, if you know what I mean. What can you tell us?" Gary blushed and shifted his feet. "Aw, nothing much, Dad," he said. Mr. Pendergast laughed and rapped his son playfully on the arm. "Come on, son, no secrets here. It's all right." "Well," said Gary, scuffling at the rug with one foot, "I don't know. I've got fake ID." He hesitated, and I sniffed glue a couple times, but I didn't like it. It made me dizzy. "He told me he puked once," said Cindy. "Okay," their father said, nodding encouragement. "And I cut classes a lot, I guess, but only the dumb ones like math and science and English and French." "If you cut them, how do you pass?" said Mr. Pendergast, winking at his guests. "I cheat on the exams, I guess," Gary said, "but everybody does that. School sucks. Only French isn't so bad now that we've got this new teacher, Miss Wilbur. She's awesome. Last week she came in, I swear to God, Dad, she had a hickey the size of a donut on her neck." "That's enough about Miss Wilbur, Gary," Mr. Pendergast said. "Mr. Decker wants to hear from you." "Oh, well, I don't know, Dad. I can't think of nothing else," Gary said, looking at the floor. "What about all that time you spend in the bathroom?" Cindy said. "Why don't you just shut up?" Gary said. "He's in there for hours," Cindy said, laughing. "I wonder what he's doing in there. "How about it, son?" Mr. Pendergast said mischievously. "Yeah, how about it, Gary?" said Cindy, teasing her brother. "No one thinks you're brushing your teeth, you know." "Yeah, well, okay," said Gary, blushing, "but I never do it on the night before a game." "Goodness sake," said Mrs. Pendergast. Mr. Pendergast smiled. "He's had good coaching," he said. "What about you, Cindy?" "Yeah, let's hear it, Angel Cakes," said Gary, laughing. "Be quiet, mouse brain," Cindy said. Then the pretty young woman thought for a moment and scratched an ear. "Well," she said, "I cheat on tests if I think I can get away with it." "Aw, come on," said Gary. "Everybody does that." "Yes, but she's on the honor roll," said Mr. Pendergast, and he playfully rapped his son's head with his knuckles. "And we pass notes in class," his daughter said. "I like to find out the really gross and disgusting things that the other girls have done and then blab it all behind their backs. Sometimes I even make stuff up. And I tease the boys. That's fun. I won't let them touch me. Well, I mean, I will let them touch me, but, you know, and I will, provide manual assistance for them if they promise to behave and if they own their own car." Mr. Pendergast exploded in a huge laugh. "Just like her mother," he said. "What a coquette." "It's pretty crazy," Cindy said. "The boys all say they don't like it, but they can't stay away. Not for long, none of them. They like it." "Manual assistance," Gary said. "That's a good one." "Why don't you just be quiet, Mr. Self-Serve," said Cindy.